China's domestic politics are entering a crucial era. I mean, you are now seeing the end of China's reform era. What we thought were Chinese politics from starting in 1978, this period that we think of the reform era, was marked by rapid economic growth, a certain degree of ideological openness to the outside, and relative political stability. China, which was a one-man state under Mao, essentially has now, in the 80s and 90s, became a one-party state, or really where collective leadership was the norm. And what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks is that's eroding. You're now seeing China begin to swing back towards a more personalized authoritarian regime that, in my view, is a lot less stable.
And what do you think that means for the future then inside China?
I worry that those risks of instability that you might start to see as those political norms that had built up in the 80s and 90s begin to erode. Some of the instability that existed in the 1960s and 70s comes back, where leadership decisions begin to reflect the will of an individual, where purges of people who fall on the wrong side of the top leader perhaps become more common. And so I really worry about what this means. I think in the short term, it's a more hardline authoritarian regime. In the longer term, I think it's potentially a more unstable one.
So maybe another cultural revolution?
Not in the short term, but you're starting to think along the lines that I'm worried about, and that has real implications for domestic politics in China.
And I think for our viewers, it would mean real implications for the Christian population there.
Absolutely.
As we've seen crackdowns and so forth.
I think state controls on religion are likely to be ramped up. I think you are entering an era. The 1970s and 80s saw the party back a little bit out of this realm of trying to govern people's personal lives. Religious belief, you had more flexibility to do what you wanted in private as long as you didn't try to organize publicly. And one of the things that's happening right now is Chinese leaders are really starting to take a much tighter look at religions, particularly the ones they regard as foreign. There's this very intense interest in Islam and some really draconian controls that have descended across Western China. And I think it's an open question as to whether some of those controls start to move into and or begin to be used against the Christian community as well. You've seen some suggestion of that in one particular eastern province, and it's probably a good idea to watch out to see whether that starts to spread more widely in China.